Hello, and welcome back to It Is a Woman's World. Well, every time we take the time to introduce you to amazing women that have amazing imaginations and that have amazing stories to tell. Well, today is no different. We have an amazing woman who is an author, a romance novelist that will take you on a blissful journey, a journey through her mind, a journey through her stories that will pull you in. I'm just going to leave it right there. I know that you'll stick with us and stay. And I want to introduce you to myself, Jamila Pettiford. I am your host. And I want to introduce you to my amazing co hosts that are with me today. Nadia Jordana, how are you doing? And thank you for being here.
I'm doing well, thank you, and I'm excited to explore the world of romance novels.
Yes, I am as well. Barbara Lavalure, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jamila. And we'll have a lot of fun with Lori and finding out about her books and her life story.
A life story. That's right. And Candy Pettiford, welcome.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm a writer as well. So, Lori, I've got some questions for you, Lori, baby.
I love other writers.
And Lori, I am so grateful you are here, our guest. Lori Wostl, you have written some great books. You have lived an amazing life. And when I think about a writer and the stories that you want to tell, you have to get to a place where you're actually willing to sit down, write it out, and share. And I wanted to know, how did you get to that place where you said, you know what, I'm going to write and I'm going to share my story, my imagination?
How did I get here? Well,
Yeah.
so about 2015, my husband had a heart attack. And when he got all recovered and we could talk again, I said, okay, now we're on borrowed time. Is there anything you haven't done that you want to do on this planet? And we sat down and we don't have to do that anymore. Oh, we could do this now instead of that. Or did you really want to live in Colorado the rest of your life? Like that kind of a conversation. And we came up with, what do we want to do? And we had this project called Auditioning the World for our next home place. And we went, one of the things he hadn't been doing that he wanted to do more of was travel. And one thing I wanted to do that I hadn't been doing was write. Now you can write almost anywhere, pencil, paper, or a laptop. Yay, God, for laptops. So I started writing.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Well, I know you had a life before you started writing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about different professions or jobs that you've had that brought you to this point?
Okay, I'm not going to start back at the beginning because it's like everybody else. You go to school, you take all those crummy jobs to pay for school, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going back there. But I was what do you call it, CEO for a high-end audio company. Now, I don't know anything about high-end audio. I know more than I did, but at that time I didn't know anything about it. But I knew the people, and the people said, hey, we want you to come run this company. So my last job as a human was a CEO of a high-end audio company in Boulder, Colorado. And then I started traveling with my husband.
Great. Go
Speaking
ahead.
speaking of sex,
We were.
Oh,
I was going to say, or speaking of spice, aka sex, I've read my share of romance novels, and they run the range from just as sweet and tame as they possibly can be to hot and spicy. Where would you say your books fall in that range, and why?
Okay, well, here's how I say it. I say I'm a few degrees hotter than Nora Roberts and a few degrees less kinky than Christian Grey. Now, do you know what that means? Because I don't know if everybody gets that.
Close.
So, Nora Roberts writes the page-turning romance for forever. And they call it women's literature, what she's doing now, because it's not about the romance, it's about the women. And so they've now told me that's what I'm writing is women's literature, although I still think it's romance. And Christian Grey, you know, he was 50 Shades of Grey, and that's beyond what I'm interested in.
Right.
So, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything? Yeah, you know I do, Nadia. Is there any character in there in any of the books that you've written? It's kind of like you. You kind of say a little bit about you, kind of incognito, really without no.
Well, no, they all are. They all are, even the guys.
Oh,
what can I say? You know what? So, you know, like what I wanted in men, how, you know, like if, you know, as a young person, I was wanting to be running. Like I'm saying young person, like 30s is young to me. I wanted to be a runner, and I would run 2 days and then I wouldn't run again for 6 months, you know? So my character in here runs, and she runs regularly. And so, you know, it's like the me I wanted to be at every stage. Like that.
Now you always kind of have some kind of conflict. You know how you got to have some kind of conflict to overcome. I know you got. Can you give us a little tidbit of one kind of conflict that you kind of got to overcome?
Myself? Okay, so I'll tell you the first one in my life of well, it's not the beginning of my life of romance, but when I met my guy, we were hanging out in Santa Barbara, and we went to Mexico. Well, my husband was from Austria, and when you crossed the border, his visa expired, and we didn't know that. We were dumb kids, you know. So we come back, and they put him in jail.
Oh,
so here I am, 2 backpacks because he wasn't taking his backpack to jail. I weighed probably 110 then. So I go to the consulate. The American consulate's on one side, the Mexicans are on the other side. And my husband's sitting there. They didn't put him in jail right away. They said they would have him wait for me to see if I could get money like that. So back and forth across the border. I went back and forth across the border 8 times. And it was probably 110 degrees. And I had to, not only that, I had to call my father and say, Daddy, we're in jail. And he says, I'm on my way. And I said, wait. And he says, what? I said, I'm in Mexico. I had to call my dad and say that. And then we got home, cleaned up everything, back to work. And then the FBI showed up at the door and said, oh, you have like 10 days to get married. Because we told them we were going to get married, right? Well, they put a limit on it. So, you know, life has not been a tame thing for me.
But it makes it a juicy story, though, Lori. Juicy.
Yeah, I didn't want to waste any time here.
No. And I think what's so beautiful about allowing your story to be told is that people who are living in a limited life that is not as blessed with all of the great exploration that you have get to vicariously be excited about the many integral pieces in the tapestry of life by reading your books. Tell me, what is the most steamy passage that you have in your House of Bliss? Would you mind reading
I
or
didn't
just
pull it
giving?
up. You should have told me that ahead of time. But
I'm so
ask
sorry.
another question while I do that, or ask Barbara a question.
Yes, Barb, ask the question because I want to hear. I know, and just like you said, you gave us a comparison of the two, and I for myself want to taste it with my ears to be able to see if I agree with your interpretation of the blissful juiciness, that has been described already.
Okay, I don't know if this is the best one or the juiciest, but this is a juicy part. Okay. So this is the main character, Els, speaking. I rouse to feel a hand stroking down my thigh. I startle, but recognize Jack's scent as he brings his mouth to mine. Oh yes, my memory did not exaggerate. Everything about him is hot. This is really why I came home. I want this. I stretch and still, kissing this luscious man, put my arms around his neck and pull him down to me. He starts to pull away, but I hold tight and open my eyes. More?
Ooh, oh,
Just
oh,
maybe
listen, my
a
my
little more.
imagination was running away with me.
Just a little bit more, because you got us on a cliff now, Lori.
Huh? Say it again.
You got us on a cliff. You got us on a cliff. Just a
That's
little
right.
more.
Well,
You have
I
to read
think
the
that's
book.
why she should not read anymore
Maybe
and
you're
Right.
right,
buy the
Barbara.
book.
Maybe you're right, Barbara. Maybe you're
Listen,
right.
Make
get
that censored.
the book
You're right.
because
So
yeah.
there are several steamy parts to all of her books, and I really enjoy the fact that she's got a theme going with the characters, so that even though you can read the books, at least I think, Lori, and you can correct me, you can read either book first or second, but I think it's just fun to read, period. So whether you think it should be in order. Um, what's your answer to that?
Well, the book one really does set up 2 and 3, but you can read
Mhm,
2 and 3 separately. Uh,
mhm.
and then you will like get if you're a reader, you're like going, oh, okay, where is that book one? I got to figure out how this happened because they have full stories. And the House of Bliss is the young lady, uh, inherits it from her aunt. And she has her friends. They have offices on the bottom floor. They have a hotel on the second floor, and they all have condominiums on the top floor. So it's, kind of sets up how the setup is. And each one has a different lead character, and one of the men shows up from being at the House of Bliss. So you can read them separately, and it's really one big story. And fact is, it's still going on, even though I didn't write it all. Sometimes at night it's like,
Right.
oh, but what about?
Lori, can you tell us the title of each one of the books? Please tell
Yeah,
us.
so this one, book one is House of Bliss. Book two is More Bliss. And book three is Pure Bliss.
So
And
tell
I
us
was
the
just
story
reading
behind Lori. Tell us the story behind Lorna D. Roland.
the story. Okay, so when I was the fourth daughter in a row, and my mom and dad had a deal that she got to name the girls and he got to name the boys. Now, in that time, they didn't know if it was going to be a girl or boy, but I was the fourth daughter in a row. So my dad got to name me, but my dad was a terrible speller. He was a terrible speller. And so he named me Lora, Laura, Lynn, Lyn. And my mother saw it and she said, give me that paper. And she made it into one word and spelled it right, as in her opinion, Loralyn. So my real name is Laura Lynn, like Carolyn. And so when I had to do this, I just made Laura. And D is for my maiden name, and Roland was my husband's first name. And my husband died before I got this published. So I thought that would be good. It's kind of romantic.
It is romantic. Totally. I mean, yeah, I like it.
I do too.
Lori, were you a reader of romance novels before you started writing them? And who would have been your favorite during that time if you were a reader of romance novels?
I was. I wasn't for a long time. For a long time. So I have 3 older sisters, as I just told you. They read. They have stacks of romance books, and they just go through them. They take them back. They trade them in. They get another stack, And it's like I was always like, God, what in the heck? And then when I decided I wanted to write books, not just other stuff like newspaper stuff or blogging or all that thing, uh, I said, well, I know what sells. And they seem simple to me. To me, a romance seems simple, beginning, middle, end, you know? And so I thought, well, I'll try a romance, see if I can write a whole book. And I could. I could just write it. And I read a lot of them. And the ones I aspire to be as good as is Nora Roberts. Nora Roberts is the queen of romance, and now they call it women's literature with romantic flavors or something like that. But Nora Roberts is the best. And then there's other, because there's some suspense in the books, and there's like
I'm trying to remember, I can't remember the name of the person that wrote the books about King Arthur and Merlin. Anyway, Mary Stuart. Mary Stuart was another favorite author when I was young. And so there's a flavor of that in there. If you know, if you've read her books, you will see it. And it's like that. It's you, everything you are comes out in those books. You know, you have it to draw on.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you said that you started wanting this and desiring this at 4 years old.
I did.
And the exciting part about that is that it was always in you.
Yeah.
And all of these experiences that you have lived throughout your life were going to be a part of the story that you would tell eventually, you know? And do you ever work with young people, or maybe you have some young folks that admire you, that are around you, that maybe glean, some inspiration from you? Talk to me a little bit about your civic engagement, or any civic work that you do around writing.
Okay, so I'll first of all tell you that I have a large property where I'm renovating a house,
Mm.
and I have a 30-foot RV there where I was staying. I'm not staying there now. And I invited my grandkids. I have two grandkids and a spouse of a grandkid in their 20s, now living in my RV on the property. And I just told them, hey, I got this thing. You can come here. I don't have the muscle for this anymore. You know, it's an orchard and a garden and this whole house thing that's getting a little out of hand. No, that never happens. And so I'm living with three 20-somethings, you know, and they, you know, like they kind of don't know which direction to go at any point. When they were in Colorado before they came here, they were all working 40 hours a week to pay the rent and pay off their student debt. And that's all they had money for. And they were working all the time. I said, come here and you can figure out what you like to do. And I actually think that's what to do, is have people get a chance to see what they like to do and do that. And I think that's what I know. I'm a romantic. I know this, right? I think that will make the world work if people get to do what they like to do. So there.
So there. And you know what? And those are the things that enhance people and young people. They'll get a chance to see that writing and going into your romance mind is an option of life.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
to actually do what you like to do.
I
So,
like
Lori,
that.
can you see this? Lori, can you see this as any one of them as a movie?
Oh, they're in the books too.
No, I mean, I'm talking
Oh, these
about
books?
make it into a movie.
Yeah,
That's what
I haven't looked into that yet. I'm too busy writing, but you know, and then, you know, getting a house. I think once I have a house where I stay in the same place all the time, I think it will go that direction.
I can see that. Just what you said, all the different conflicts and different things you mentioned. I can see a movie.
Well, yeah, that's all movies are, is a story, beginning, middle, and end. Yeah, I think it'll be a great movie. In fact, I think all three of them will be great movies when they are.
Good. Let us know.
Yes,
Yes,
we'll
and then
audition for a role.
that's good. That's good. I have a second series almost done.
Tell us
I,
about it.
well, I write 3 books at a time,
Okay.
you know, so, and then because you can't, because you know, you have to go back. Oh, this is such a good idea. I'm going to put it in book 3, but then I have to go back to book 1 and make sure it doesn't contradict anything in there. You know, you gotta pay attention if you're going to do 3 books in a row.
Absolutely.
So the second series I like better. Number one, I'm a better writer now. And I like it better because I set it up that the women, of course it's women, this is women's literature, you know, it's not just romance. Anyway, the women, the first book 1, the woman is young, just came out of college. Book 2, the woman is 35 to 40. You know, she's been out of college, she's done her thing for a while, and now she's like, what am I doing now? And then the last book is the heroine is 60, you know, and because there's this false idea that at somewhere along between 50 and 70, women disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Now, women don't disappear for themselves. That's probably when they're the most expressed. And I want to impact that conversation that women oh, well, they got married, they had kids, they had their household, and now they're done, or something like that. I don't know what people think. I know that I'm doing the best I've ever done, and I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And, the other part of that is be a role model for those 20 somethings. And I have grandkids that are 7, and they are twins, and they
Oh,
will see a different kind of woman in the world.
yes, yes, they will. I think
Fabulous.
we have time for maybe a short question. If there's something pending um, that you would like to say, Barbara, I see your mind going. Nadia?
I had a quick question. I'd like to ask Lori if she has any advice for writers wanting to follow a similar path.
So, there's a thousand books on how to write, and you should read those. And what really works is you set a schedule and you stick to the schedule, period.
Period.
So,
Okay.
I write from 6:30 to 8:30 every morning, Monday through Thursday. And then I try over the weekend to get another hour or two here and there. And I do. But, and so the latest iteration of this is I decided to try to go 5:30 to 8:30 in the morning.
Mm,
I'm further north now, and it is light at 4 o'clock in the morning.
nice.
So I wake up when it gets light, and you brush your teeth, you do your thing, and it's still very early. Nobody wants to hear from you at this hour. So I thought, well, I just tack on an hour in the beginning of it, see if that works. So that's the experiment right now. But the set schedule, I mean, you can dither for an hour and 45 minutes, but you can't for 2 hours. At least I can't.
Mhm.
So some writing always gets done every day. Can
Nice.
I answer you?
That
Mhm.
that's beautiful. And I think what's so beautiful about hearing not only that you are expressing yourself and your life and in your strategic way that you go about writing your books, but you are living life on life's terms and you've decided to enjoy the rest of your days. And I hope that all of the women that are with us are on that same path, that they are looking at our dear Lori and they're saying, if she can do it, I know that I also can do the same. And we want to thank you for sharing your stories with us. Make sure to get her books. We will make sure to have the information posted for you so that you will be able to look into them, be a part of this imagination, this beautiful story of how to live life and to overcome the many different things that come through our story. Well, it is a woman's world, and we came again to bring you an amazing writer, novelist, expressionist, I would say. And of course, we ask you all to do the same. Again, I'm your host, Jamila Pettiford. I want to thank all of my guests, and of course, thank you, Lori, for being with us. And until we see each other again, take care.
Just found out that all these ladies here with me are writers. I'm going to ask Nadia, what do you do? What is your best writing tip?
I find myself procrastinating as you were talking about. That is my biggest problem, as is true with so many writers. And I do try to take a page out of your playbook and try to set aside time. I am not very often successful, but I used to write short pieces. In fact, I still write a lot of short pieces and poetry. And I'm working up to doing longer pieces. I have not yet done a full-length novel. My hat goes off to everyone that does that, but I am working on that and trying to do longer and longer pieces. But it really is a stretch. And of course, it is wonderful to stretch our brains anyway. So I'm enjoying the process and trying to do more and more. So I'm getting into longer short stories lately.
Great. So incrementally increasing. Candy, what
So,
about you? Do you have a writer's trip?
oh wow, I have so many things, and for me, it really happened because I was a mover and shaker and going, moving. And then when arthritis came into my life, it sat me down. I had to sit still. But the one thing I'd like to say now, I'm writing a book for women's retreats with my daughter. And we are having a ball. It's about all the women in the Bible, name, no name. And we are having a ball with it. And it's going to be a hot seller. I mean, hot. So that's my
Great.
little tip for that one.
Great. Barbara, how about you?
Well, thank you for asking. I wanted to write my memoir for decades, and I finally did it. And like you suggested, setting aside a time was probably the most important thing that had me get it done. It took me 4 years, but I got it done and it was published. So that to me is the biggest tip for future or current writers who want to get something published. And I just remember something I wanted to ask you, Lori. I'd like you to share your motto.
Thanks. Thanks for asking. So my motto is be alive until you're not. Be alive until you're not.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking, Barbara.
And
So
you know
Bill,
what's so funny is I have a model that's something similar. You will live until you die.
yeah,
You know, you will live until you die. So I love models like that because it just reminds you to live and
yes,
keep living. And I'd have to say, Lori, with my writing style, I write plays and short stories for children. I write poems and songs and music and jingles. And so my writing is very creative because I work with young minds and pull stories from them to create pieces that we do showcases for. And so I get a chance to really be exploratory with young minds and creating and publishing little short stories and little plays for junior high and high school. And I mean, just the time of my life doing theater as a theater teacher with young, great minds. And so writing and teaching them that the writers make all the money, and they looked it up and they believe that, and they're sewed in. And so, Lori, I hope that you continue to influence and be powerful the way that you have, and just really sparking a fire under so many people, even us today, as we've listened to your beautiful stories and how you take time aside to be and to get into the mind of a writer.
thank
So,
you. Thank you so
yeah.
much.